Well, hello everybody. This is Gustavo Tolosa here, and I'm with Chef AJ in her LA kitchen, and she's about to make a very yummy pie, and I'll let her tell you about it.
Hi everybody and welcome. Thank you so much for watching. You know, I've been vegan for almost 40 years, but before I was vegan, I'll be honest, I used to love Snicker bars and I used to like putting them in the freezer. Well, this dessert, for lack of a better name, is called Tastes Like a Snicker Bar Pie because that's what it tastes like. And it's really easy to make. It doesn't even require any baking, and I'm going to show you how to make it right now.
Very good.
So we start with the food processor fitted with the S blade because it looks like a letter S. You don't need a really expensive one. This one I got at Walmart for less than $80. It works fine, but I do recommend for my recipes you get one that is at least 14 cups. In the food processor, I have 2 cups of peanuts. I don't like raw peanuts. They don't taste very good. These are roasted and unsalted. What I'm going to do is I'm going to process them into a flour-like consistency. I don't want to keep going because the last thing we want is peanut butter, at least not in the crust. So that's, we want just chopped peanuts. We don't want to go into a nut butter. I have 12 ounces of pitted dates. I'm using the organic dates from I Love Date Lady. Always make sure that there's no, see what I said? These are supposed to be pitted, and there's a pit. Last thing you want is your blade to become less sharp. 12 ounces is approximately 2 cups, but I prefer to do everything, at least with desserts, by weight. And we're going to process this until it starts to slow down in almost a boiled form. As the food processor starts to slow down, what you want to do is grab a bit of the dough, and then we can form a ball like this and then break it in half easily. I call this the break point, and it doesn't crumble. You're ready to add your 1 tablespoon of vanilla. I use an alcohol-free, sugar-free vanilla. I make it myself out of 2 vanilla beans mixed with 1 cup of water and a high-powered blender. You can keep that in your refrigerator for up to 3 weeks. It's very potent, very delicious vanilla water. I'm going to process this smoothly. And then I'm going to put it into what's called a tarte pan. And I love it because the bottom just lifts right up. These come in all different sizes. If you had the time, you could make individual ones for people. Now, this is actually a recipe by itself. If you have my book on processed, I have a recipe called Peanut Bites. And that's what these are. And I press them in little molds or roll these into balls. And they're quite delicious. They're like those little bars you buy for about $2, but you can make them yourself. And so what you do is you want to just press it down. You can wear gloves if you want, but you have to sort of get it to the sides to get that nice little lip because you're using...
Yes.
So you just kind of work your way around until the lip is all the way even on all sides. You can just, there's a lot of dough in the middle, so I don't know if dough is the right word because there's really no flour, but you just press it up until you get enough on the sides because you need that when you take the ring off. Otherwise, it can't be too flimsy. So you can use your thumb to build it up.
And this is no baking, right?
No baking, yes. I love desserts that we don't bake. And the reason is because I live in the part of Los Angeles called the San Fernando Valley where it often gets to over 100 degrees. And the last thing I want is to put my oven on. I just think these no-bake desserts are actually even better. And since I don't use flour, it's very hard to bake without flour. So there we go. And that's the crust.
It looks great.
Yeah, let me just, get the stuff off my hands. So next we're going to make the filling. And the first thing we're going to do is make some date paste. And the way I make date paste, if you have my book on process, page 65, is I take a pound of dates to 1 cup of liquid. But I don't need quite that much for this recipe, so I'm only using a half a pound to a half a cup of liquid. And the liquid I'm using is water. You want to make sure you save that soap water because that's where all the sweetness has gone. Let's whip this today. And you just puree. It's actually easier to make a larger amount of date paste than it is this small amount. The process is much more easily. Truthfully, usually I do about 3 pounds at a time. 3 pounds of dates to 3 cups of water, and it actually all fits in here. need 1.5 cups, and I will measure this right now. This is not pureed as much as I'd like, but I'll tell you what, once I put some of the other ingredients in, that will be enough to help it puree more. So there's 1 cup there. Yeah, I figured that would be it. Yep, 1.5. That's perfect. Okay, so we know now that 8 ounces is just right. I usually make, like I said, 3 pounds up at a time. It lasts for weeks, if not months, in the refrigerator, and certainly longer in the freezer. Now we have 1 1/4 cup of natural peanut butter, the kind that is roasted, but no salt, no sugar. Always pour that little bit of oil off the top of the jar. Dates and peanut butter, you can't go wrong with that. I'm going to puree that now and add a tablespoon of my vanilla. It's always good to scrape the sides down from time to time. And I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients. Oh, that smells really good. Which are a 12.3 ounce box of extra firm tofu. The kind in the box is what is preferred for making desserts rather than the kind packed in water, which is great for savory recipes and stir fries. And 8 ounces, which is approximately 1 cup of a non-dairy cream cheese. I make my own out of cashews, and 1 tablespoon of yogurt using the book Artisan Vegan Cheese by Miyoko Shinner. She also sells refrigerated versions of her product, but it's just so easy to make your own. It's much less expensive, and I just freeze them in little Ziploc bags, 1 cup each, for when I need the recipe.
But the yogurt is not dairy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, excuse me.
Right.
Yes, non-dairy yogurt. So I'm allergic to soy, but you could use soy yogurt. They have almond yogurt. They have, I use an unsweetened coconut yogurt. You just need a little bit. You're using it actually as a starter, or you could actually make your own. Every now and then, it's a good idea just to scrape the sides so you get all the ingredients fully incorporated. You can see how delicious that looks. It smells like a Snickers. Peanuts. Yeah, that looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah. So
now what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our crust. Creamy and delicious. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know of a little trick I'm going to show you how to get all the extra goodness off the blade of the food processor. All you do is, by virtue of centrifugal force, you put it back on for just a moment, put the top on, press pause, and voila, your blade becomes completely clean, and now you can get the last bit of peanut buttery goodness. It's actually like a peanut butter mousse, and it's going to set up in the freezer. It's not going to get so frozen hard that you won't be able to cut it. It's going to have a nice texture, but if you don't freeze it and if you just try to refrigerate it, it will stay this consistency. It really won't be like a pie that you can cut. So that's why we want to use the freezer instead of the refrigerator. Okay, so now, again, I really recommend for almost every dessert, you get one of these offset spatulas. It just makes it real easy. Was that a date pit? Yes, it was. I don't know how that could have escaped me. Very important to get rid of those. You don't want somebody breaking a tooth.
No.
There we go. So now what we want to do is we want to freeze this at least a few hours so we can put the chocolate topping on. But I didn't think in advance to make another one to show you this step. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go with it. Now, please, it's going to be so much easier to spread the chocolate on top if you have frozen this for a few hours, because until it's a little bit firmer to the touch. And I'm going to do my best to make it work right now. So what we're going to do is we are going to melt some chocolate. And what we're going to do is we are going to take a half a bag, or 5 ounces. I am using the Sunspire Grain Sweetened Chocolate Chips. If there's another brand you prefer, feel free to use those. I'm adding 1/8 of a cup, or 2 tablespoons of non-dairy milk. I'm using unsweetened almond milk, but you could use any one you want. And 1/4 cup of date syrup. It's organic, made by I Love Date Lady. and the only ingredient is dates. So I'm going to measure that. Oops, I'm almost out. Let me get some more. That's because I use it for all my desserts. Let me get some more in the cabinet. Be right with you. Yep. Okay.
And to melt the chocolate, you put it at about medium heat.
Right. And like I say, I apologize. I don't have a double boiler. That's the safest way to do it. Never try to melt chocolate in the microwave or in a pan that doesn't have some kind of liquid in it. This is a non-stick pan that I've had for many, many years. If you're not comfortable with non-stick, then use whatever you're comfortable using. So we're doing this at about medium heat, and we're going to melt this, and this is going to be our topping, and then we're going to put it over the top. I don't know how it's going to work without the top being frozen, I'll be honest. I've never done it, so we're going to hope for the best. Always make sure that you stay in the vicinity of melting chocolate. Don't take a bath or walk the dog, because this can burn, and once chocolate is burned, it's ruined, it's scorched, it smells terrible, looks terrible, tastes terrible, You can't use it. Move it around in the pan. Yeah, so you can see that this, when it's frozen, this won't happen to your finger. It won't do that, and it'll be a lot easier to glaze it. So we're going to glaze that, and then once the chocolate's on top, we're going to sprinkle it with some crushed unsalted roasted peanuts. Now, I have clients that are allergic to legumes, peanuts specifically, and you can do this exact recipe with almonds instead of peanuts in the crust, and with almond butter instead of peanut butter, and it's fantastic. A little bit more expensive because it's almonds, but it's completely doable. So, it's not a very chocolatey dessert like some of the other ones, like the decadent strawberry chocolate cheesecake or the frozen peanut butter chocolate cheesecake. Peanut butter is the star in this dessert. Chocolate is more of the co-star, but it's still quite delicious. You got to put something on top. And I suppose if somebody couldn't have chocolate, well, you could probably just put nuts on top. I mean, it wouldn't be as decadent or as sweet, or you could use carob. It's not that I'm not a fan of carob, but I don't think carob is a substitute for chocolate. I think that carob's a fruit. It's a Mediterranean pod that's generally roasted, and it can be used the same, but I don't think it tastes the same. So I think if you're trying to pretend it's chocolate, you're kidding yourself. But that said, it can be delicious on its own, but it's not chocolate. So.
How about if it was something like coconut or dates or something like that?
You know, I don't know how coconut would go with peanut butter. I mean, I'm an adventurous chef, and that's how things are invented, is by trying. So I can't tell you. I mean, there's already dates in it. Coconut and peanut butter, I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't know. But it is very, very pretty. And the idea is, you know, if you think about a traditional Snickers bar, which actually they have a company now that makes vegan ones, there was chocolate on the outside, but Snickers bar were mostly nugget. And it was peanuts and peanut butter. You know, the little ad said packed with peanuts, really satisfies. But I liked everything frozen as a child, all my Halloween candy. And so here we go. You can see that it's starting to get shiny and look really good. And once it's completely melted, you turn it off, and then hopefully it won't sink in. We don't know. I've been making this for years. I've never done it without freezing the top. Maybe it'll work. I don't know. So this is a first.
This is the first.
This is a first. So that's how you learn stuff. Maybe I don't need to go through the step of freezing the top if this works all along. Just don't get any on the sides. It goes a little bit on the sides, but that could be because it's not so firm. And then take your offset spatula that you used to put the peanut butter in. Oopsie, it's going a little bit over the top. And spread it around. Ooh, it's beautiful. Nice and shiny. Ooh, melted chocolate smells amazing.
Yes, it does.
So it's kind of going over. That's why it's important to get it even so that it doesn't go lopsided like it's doing on one side. But guests love this dessert. And it is great when you have the time to buy the smaller tart pans and make it an individual. But, you know, it's always more individual desserts. That's why they're so much more costly even in restaurants and bakeries, because they are more labor intensive. So I'm making a big chocolatey mess here, but it's okay. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take the 1/2 cup of nuts, and it may be a little bit less, but I measured out 1/2 cup. And these I finely ground. If you wanted not a fine ground, that would be fine if you think that looks better. I just sort of like this way, you know, it covers up any mistakes like that chocolate that just leaked over. That's what these ground nuts do. Sprinkle it over the top, just like that. Beautiful, but you must get this in the freezer. You want to freeze it
Yes.
solid, and I like to freeze this frozen or just gently defrost it. But again, this is not a refrigerated or baked dessert. Absolutely
look at
beautiful,
that, everybody.
delicious.
This is going to the freezer.
Tastes like a Snicker bar pie, peanut butter dates primarily with a little bit of chocolate on top.